Alright, so, yeah. So Ellie's got a gun, man. The first image we see in this episode is Ellie looking in the mirror pretending to fire the gun she required at Bill and Frank's place, and she's kind of like sneaking the gun around. Well, sorry, welcome back to another video. Where are my manners? We are back with another video. We have the 4th episode of The Last of Us every single Sunday. Well, this week they're actually releasing it on Friday, so if you watch it the day it comes out, cool. I usually just watch these on Tuesday because it falls into like my movie schedule. Instead of watching 2 movies a week, we watch a Last of Us episode, and we're gonna watch a movie today, which I haven't figured out which movie it is I'm going to watch, but yeah. She's got a gun. Whereas Ellie in the game is still constantly reacting with shock and horror as Joel offs the bad guys. At this point, her TV show counterpart still seems excited by it and perhaps anxious for a chance to prove she can effectively dish it out. But for all the ways Ellie is different in the show, and others, she remains much the same. Outside Joel siphoning gas from an old car and tells her to stay close. She's reading a book of awful jokes. I think that's kind of hilarious. But yeah, obviously there's gonna be similarities between the video game version and the TV show version of did I say Ellie? Is her name? Yeah, her name is Ellie. Sorry. Okay. Alone and Forsaken. There then comes another parallel between the game and the show. In dialogue that's almost word for word from the source material, Ellie presents Joel with a tape of Hank Williams' tunes, asking him if it makes him all nostalgic. So yeah, apparently that was ripped straight from the game. Again, I wouldn't know. I didn't play the game. I'm kind of mad about it. Maybe after the show I'll go get the game and play it. Because obviously, like, it's a legendary game. Even I've seen gameplay this back when it came out, and it seems like a legendary game. Like, yeah, so they're taking some dialogue from the game. They're also sprucing it up a little bit, which again, it would have been easy for them to just take right from the script, but no, they didn't. You gotta love the shots that follow of scenery Ellie sees scrolling by out the window, an empty amusement park, overgrown truck stop signage, buffalo grazing, seemingly unbothered by the end of human society. It's just some interesting imagery as we kind of progress throughout the episode. And then we have Chef Boyardee. Joel pulls off the road to camp for the night. The truck he took from Bill's gliding gorgeously through the tall grass and cooks him a dinner of 20-year-old Chef Boyardee ravioli. Now, obviously, you wouldn't normally eat this, but hey, they're in the apocalypse. They're scraping for rations. They're scraping for food. And this isn't going to be a long review. I'm just kind of scratching the surface of what the plot is and kind of giving you guys a quick rundown of what happens. If you've played the game, whatever, you're obviously familiar with all these scenes because it's damn near adapted perfectly from the game with different dialogue, different character development, that sort of thing. That's pretty much what it is. So yeah. And over this feast, when Ellie asks if they can start a fire, Joel introduces the idea of a new danger. Not Fedra, not infected, but ragtag human hunters. There's not just the authorities of the apocalypse. There's not just the infected. There's random roamers, like hunters and gatherers, whatever you want to call them, just walking around scavenging for stuff. So if they see smoke in the air, they're going to know someone's going to be around, or at least something good, like crazy's happening around them. They're going to get curious, and they're going to come over there and probably kill them. Like, yeah. Ellie's not really thinking this through. She doesn't really seem to get a full grip of what the apocalypse is. I mean, she's obviously probably more prepared than most kids here, but yeah. As the two prep for bed using sleeping bags that used to be Bill and Frank's, we get a sweet moment where Ellie asks Joel if she can ask him a serious question. She tells him the joke, and Joel knew it. She's like, "Oh, you're so fucking lame." And, I mean, they're laying in bed. She tells another joke. She finally gets him later on, which is a cool little full circle moment they included. Your cargo. And now Joel's like calling her cargo. Now we come to one of the most important differences between the world of the game and the world of the show. Coffee. In this stretch of the game, Joel laments the lack of coffee in his life. It's just kind of weird. There's a central symbolism, and there's a central theme around this, I guess. Joel's like surprised that she doesn't like coffee. He asks with a You don't like coffee? Joel asks with a hint of understated humor as she recoils in disgust from the bubbling pot. Um, Ellie's character is one of a kind. We haven't really seen a character like her in video games or anything like that. The coffee smells like burnt shit. She asks him about his brother, and in typical Joel fashion, he tries to rebuff her, saying it's a long story. He's trying to hold back from her a little bit, because obviously they're not super familiar with each other. They kind of just met not too long ago, but he obviously doesn't feel like explaining things. Joel calls Tommy a joiner, someone who's always driven by the hope, or in his eyes, the delusion of being a hero, making a big difference, saving the world. He's trying to kind of describe his brother to Ellie as concise as possible. He's telling the story, obviously. So there's trouble in Kansas City. It's not all butterflies or rainbows, awesome bonding moments between these two. Outside Kansas City, the two find their path blocked by the remains of old traffic. So just like the game's Joel outside Pittsburgh, Pedro Pascal says screw it and heads off the highway and into the city himself. He gives no fucks. He wants to go into this QZ, see what's going on, maybe see if they can steal some stuff, and yeah, that sort of thing. The grueling gunfight that follows suggests that despite what he says, Ellie is more to him than just cargo, and his instincts as a protector kick in. So Ellie damn near saves his life after being called cargo, and that just proves how much he cares about Joel. Even though they just met each other, she still is starting to care about him. They're still starting to develop something. And here Ellie must come to Joel's rescue, closely mirroring a scene that happens in the game's Pittsburgh motel. But instead, it obviously happens in Kansas City. They gotta change some things, or else it's gonna be lame. Ideologically, I'm not a fan of how ubiquitous idea is in video game and grimdark movies and TV shows that killing is often just a given and necessity once the world collapses. That's what most characters in apocalyptic shows, you see it in The Walking Dead. Most people in shows like that, they feel the need to kill someone. And obviously you don't like that trope. I don't like that trope too much, right? Meeting Kathleen. In the game, we know that the Hunters of Pittsburgh have effectively liberated the city from the local Fedra branch, which was a cruel and oppressive institution denying people rations and brutally keeping citizens in line. I know a little bit about the game. I've kind of watched videos about the background of the game. I kind of get the gist. I kind of know what it's all about. The show expands on the revolution, giving it a leader named Kathleen, played by Melanie Linsky, famous from Yellow Jackets, who we first meet as she interrogates a doctor in a reclaimed Fedra facility about the whereabouts of other collaborators who previously worked with the oppressive government agency. So yeah, there's this big revolution going on, but the show doesn't think that's enough, and they add a new character, which is fine by me because I don't really know what's going on all the way in terms of the game. What makes the casting of Linsky and the role so effective is that as Kathleen, she gives off an attitude of almost naive innocence, which clashes so intensely with the ruthlessness of her actions. She's kind of contradicting herself. She's kind of hypocritical. She seems to not want to kill, but then she kills. The doctor pleads ignorance as she rattles off a list of names, and then we get a clue as to Kathleen's motivation. I wonder, she muses, if this is the cell where my brother was beaten to death. So now we're kind of getting some background about why she's threatening the doctor's life and all this stuff. Kathleen is not without her humanity, and when the man says that he delivered her, she's clearly moved and hesitant to kill him. I delivered you. Why would you kill me? And at first she's ooh, I don't know, man. Should I kill this guy? And we also meet Perry, Kathleen's right-hand man. Outside, members of her organization have brought the hunters Joel fought off, now dead or dying, back to base, trying to cure whoever they can and trying to ask them questions who's at the bottom of this. This is Henry's work, she says, and he won't stop until we stop him. Find every collaborator and kill them all, she orders, sending her people out in all her reclaimed Fedra vehicles to bash down doors and blow some heads off. So now they are on the search. They're trying to look for Ellie and Joel. Personally, I'm way past exhausted with the ubiquity in video games, and here television inspired by video games of presenting the people who throw off their vile oppressors as equally bad. See Bioshock Infinite, notorious example, but here we are. There are definitely some flaws, but yeah, a history of violence. Hiding out in an old bar, Joel and Ellie get to talking about how she just saved his life, and it plays out very differently from the game, which again is probably very refreshing for the fans of that game. Understandably so. Here he's more open about his feelings, but there's feelings of regret and failure rather than gratitude. I know what it's like the first time that you hurt someone like that. If you, I'm not good at this, he says awkwardly before telling her that it was his fault that she had to do something awful, and he's sorry. He didn't want, no one. I mean, he doesn't want a kid to have to do something like that. As an adult, he needs to start taking more authority in the future and start handling situations better. On Henry and Sam's trail, Perry tells Kathleen that he's found a sign of Henry and Sam, leads her into a cramped attic space in a nearby building, so they're starting to close in. They're starting to narrow in on Joel and Ellie. Down in the basement, a patch of ground has cracked and sunken in. So obviously their buildings are getting old or whatever, they're kind of like breaking down, that sort of thing. I really like Perry as a character, if not a person. He gets no elaborate backstory, no flashbacks to develop him in our eyes, and yet Jeffrey Pierce's performance tells us all we need to know. And when a character doesn't have a story and an actor is just so good that you like the character like it's something. The diarrhea joke, here it comes. Meanwhile, Joel boosts Ellie up through a window in what might be a deliberate nod to a frequent mechanic in the game. Cool, a lot of cultural references, to the game. And the freaking joke is funny. So the Joels have... Let's see. In both cases, Ellie asks Joel if he killed innocent people. In both, he doesn't give a straight answer, but it's clear enough what the answer is. So the Joels have that in common, but just as the show's Ellie is different from the games in a few key ways, so too is the show's Joel different from his game counterpart. Whereas the Joel of the game has remarkable stamina for a man in his mid to late 50s and is able to crawl silently around and strangle the life out of 8 or 10 people without breaking a sweat, the Joel of the show is believably weathered and wary, so it's a little more realistic. Obviously, video games kind of have like a fantasy effect to them. Joel scatters broken glass across the entrance to the room they hole up in so that any intruders will make their presence known. Smart man, smart man. She also, she doesn't want to talk about the first time she had to kill someone because Joel was curious and she was like, no. She also points out another one of Joel's limitations in the show, saying she's noticed he doesn't hear too well out of his right ear, so she was worried he may not hear it even if someone does sneak in and step into this glass trap. In the game, Joel is supernaturally keen hearing, letting him pinpoint the locations of enemies. Yeah, they're trying to kind of limit him physically. Before they fall asleep, Ellie finally gets a laugh out of him with one of her awful jokes, the diarrhea hereditary thing. Did you know it was hereditary? Yeah. Rightfully wrong, old wrongs. Over the end credits, we heard Lottie Kestner's cover of New Order's True Faith. Interestingly, this cover was the basis for a version of the song that Ellie sang in a commercial for The Last of Us Part 2, which prompted Kestner to tweet about the unauthorized use of her cover. So, yeah, they tweeted an apology. That was kind of an interesting little thing, but I don't really have anything to say. I gotta go to class here in like 2 minutes, so I gotta kind of get fully dressed and get like a sweatshirt on and stuff and get ready. So leave a like, comment, subscribe, do all that stuff, guys. Jesus TV is always giving you guys the best TV show content out there. I am out until tonight's NBA recap video. Yeah, don't worry though, I will be back for that. Hopefully you guys have a good rest of your day. Oh my god, I need a stretch.